These structures can provide a diverse habitat for many species of fish. For land-based anglers, some provide an excellent place to target species that they may not be able to reach without a boat.
That's right, Jim. We're talking about RipRaps, surf, and jetties on this week's Texas Insider Fishing Report, which starts now.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to the Texas Insider Fishing Report, and lucky for us, we have Captain Jim Ross back in our studio filling in for Rick. Jim, it's good having you here co-hosting with me again.
You know what? I love being here, and you know, this is one of the exciting things that I like to talk about because I love fishing surf, I love fishing jetties. RipRap, throw it in there too for the guys that are fishing freshwater. These are great places to catch fish.
And it's our theme show, so it should be fun today. But we're gonna pick our captains and guides' brains this week for our theme, RipRap, surf, and jetties. But before we do get to our first region, let's say hi to Dave Farrell at the Yak Gear workbench. Dave, you look pretty ready over there.
I am just now ready. Exactly.
Just now ready.
Boom, ready now.
No time like the present.
Exactly.
All right, well, the Seasucker Lower Coast region has something for everyone this weekend. So let's see what we're catching with Captain Chad Kinney. Go for it, Chad.
I'll tell you what, this time of year we can get some good weather, and we have. The storms have passed. We still got some higher tides, but they're subsiding, and the offshore conditions are getting great, you know, so which leads into the surf and the jetties and everything else. That's a prime time to do it from now through about middle October. So right now, get up to those jetties and the surf. Best fishing is when you can get out there and take a look and see some bait moving. You might see some medhane moving, mullet, just anything moving around through there. And the key thing I like looking for is some good green, kind of like a trout green water. We get that emerald green look to it. That really kicks off the bite right there. If you're surf fishing down here, say you're coming from Corpus or the Port Mansfield jetties in that area like that, hit that second and third sandbar. You can target a whole bunch of different species in there. You can target, you know, reds, trout, mackerel, sharks, pompano, tarpon. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Get up there between that second, third sandbar, and there's a bunch of stuff whenever all the conditions are good. The jetties are really solid this time of year also, so basically you can, you know, hit that surf and then move right on over to the jetties. So find some good washouts there, some deeper areas right there, some eddies. Same thing, you can just fish. Primarily, there's really good redfish up close to the jetties there. There's some snook, trout, all stuff like that. So you can also throw some mirror lure divers out there if you got a big enough 10 spinning rod like a 6500, chunk it out there way deep, way out, and with a quick retrieve right through there, there's going to be kingfish and through the bait balls and stuff like that. You'll get a lot of action on that. Key thing on this stuff, work these areas when you get some tidal movement going. The fish start biting a lot better like that, especially kind of on an outgoing tide, in my opinion. And, you know, the bait and the water clarity is a huge kicker right there. So, like I said, right now, between now and October, get out there until the big fronts start hitting. You'll have a lot of good action. So going to inshore there, hit to the land cut for some really good trout action right along the edge there in the ICW and the oil guts. The trout fishing has been really good up in there. The trout fishing's been good. That's like I said, the tides are up, but the kicker on this one is they're going to start subsiding. So they're going to start bailing out of there, and some of those guts in the flats like that, those baits are going to be, you know, falling off of there. So what you can do there is Croaker is working really good free line, well off those guts in the ICW right there. Good way to fish. You use your Rodan trolling motor, go up and down those banks just in casting distance right on the weed beds. Throw some Berkeley J-Water top waters. Works really good like that. If you're on some soft plastics and work the drop off and the edges better, saltwater assassin sea shad works really good on that. Make sure you work all those edges and grass beds and the guts going in along those old guts. You'll have some good production right through there. Heading to the offshore, which this time of year to really get out there. Like I said, the storm, you know, turned up the Gulf. We've been going out there a bunch. The blue water, true blue water, is about 70 miles out, but that'll change here pretty quick. That'll clean back up. So right now the best fishing is pretty much at the floater rigs. And if you're in shallower, you know, you hit shrimp boats and some structure for some cobia. So talking about the cobia, like I said, you got some oil rig structure. You got shrimp boats out there for structure. If you're snapper fishing, they'll pop up on you any time of day. So the best way to target these things is go from structure to structure, or shrimp boat to shrimp boat. Kind of idle your boat there, kind of rev it up once in a while, throw some chum out, get some noise going. They're curious fish, you know, so give it 15 to 30 minutes pretty much at each location. They'll pop up by then and see if it's holding fish, if not move to the next one. If you get one coming up, then, you know, chump some bait out there and have a live bait hook rigged just straight to a main line. Free line it back there with the chum. Wait for that cobia to take it. And the key thing is don't set the hook right away. You know, let them run a bit and then slowly lock that drag up and he'll hook himself. Remember, these fish are really strong. They can cause some damage. to your boat if you gaff them really green. So wear them out, or if you do gaff them kind of green, get a good gaff shot one in the head and throw them straight into the cooler and close them down so he doesn't bust up anything on your boat. So talking about the floater rigs, we've been doing a bunch of this stuff lately, and it's producing. That's why we're going. Lots of tuna out there, blackfin, yellowfin. Best bites been on the troll, and we're still catching a few at night, but mainly in the morning and evening trolls where we're catching all of our yellowfin. On the flatlines, we've been pulling some Savage Max Stick speed runners, and on the riggers, on the long riggers, especially we're putting on the Islanders with the bigger ballyhoo rigged on it. We're trolling about 7.5 to 8 knots in that stuff, and what we're doing is looking at our sonar to locate the bait balls and the tuna on them. They're typically, if they're going to be feeding, they're going to be in that 150-foot range or better. Once they drop down to 300, 400, they're already sounded too far. But there's plenty of action on the troll, and at night be rigged and ready. You know, some topwater poppers also. They start coming up at all, you can start popping them with the top waters, and you can also throw some chunks out and do that. And jigging, if they're down deeper, get a heavier Savage jig and drop down deeper in that area and get some yellowfin tuna there. And we got a picture here. We had actually 11 yellowfin between that 50 and 70-pound range, and there's a few guys that were happy.
Oh,
I guess
man.
so. Man, that's some
look
nice
good.
stuff. Well, Chad, I appreciate that. Top spot type report, and you guys and gals down there in the lower coast are going to be doing fantastic this weekend, thanks to Chad giving you those hot spots. I'm going to take his hot spots from here. The land cut, or the land gut, and Gladys Hole has been good for trout fishing. The tides are starting to drop, so there's some flounder in the guts and the drop-offs. And then offshore, the best bite is at the floater rigs. There's a few cobia around there. They've been showing up. And you also want to check those shallows for the shrimp boats and structure.
Man, those boys are going to have some good old sushi, that's
telling
for
you,
sure.
that's a
50
lot.
to 70 pounds each.
Love it.
Man, they hit the jackpot. All right, well, we're continuing with our RipRap theme in the Startron Middle Fresh region. So, Matt, we'll take our big bass on the rocks, please.
All right, Bree. RipRap is one of my favorite forms of cover to bass fish. It attracts a lot of good algae that the bait fish love, and it attracts bait fish of all kinds, but shad and crawfish seem to especially like it here in the Middle Fresh region. Every reservoir in the Middle Fresh region has at least some riprap. The dam of all the reservoirs usually has some good riprap. Bridges often have a good stretch of riprap, and then many property owners use it as well along their shorelines to stop erosion. Makes for some great fishing there too. And as we transition from the summer and into the fall, riprap is a great place to target feeding bass. This is when you're going to want to put that Berkeley square bull crankbait in your hand and just start covering water, just burning down that riprap, making casts parallel to the bank with that crankbait and at 45-degree angles to figure out where the fish are holding along those rocks. And you're gonna want to beat that crankbait off of that rock, deflecting it off those rocks as much as possible. Make contact with those rocks and make quick pauses now and then to trigger strikes. I always like to start by experimenting with a couple of different colors. I like to start with a shad color and a crawfish color. I alternate between the two, and the fish are going to always show you a preference between one or the other, and then you can stick with it the rest of the day. So that approach allows me to cover water quickly and determine what the fish want fast so that I can enjoy all-day success burning down that riprap catching bass. Now, as for what the largemouth have been doing lately, we're going to start out on Toledo Bend. We've had some nice cool weather again this week. Water temperature has cooled down to a steady 80 degrees now. Very little change throughout the day because the weather has been really pleasant. Light blue skies and steady winds have made for some great catches. It's been really feeling like early fall around here, and it's been such a nice relief from the heat. The thermocline has pushed down to around 30 feet now, which has opened up the lake for the bass. Just like I discussed last week, you can find bass in lots of different depths right now and in lots of different patterns. But I'll try to narrow it down for you as much as possible. Personally, I like to hit the shoreline stretches in the morning that are close to good deep water with a lot of shad around, just like we just talked about with the riprap. Great place to look. Grass and wood are also really prevalent on Toledo Bend, but any good cover from the bank out to about 10 feet with a lot of shad around is going to be a good place for success. You're going to want to use those crankbaits and shad-style baits from Bass Assassin to catch those active morning fish that are out prowling around hunting. And then that offshore bite out a little deeper from about 10 foot out to all the way to about 25 feet, especially if you're down the south end of the lake, you're going to want to look towards that deeper range. That offshore bite can be good in the middle of the day. So look for long flat points and ridges for that one, where the bass can set up along the perimeters of those long flat break lines and ambush the shad. That makes for a great crankbait bite as well. Just go to a deeper crankbait, or a Carolina rig as well is good all throughout the day. All right, now moving over to Sam Rayburn. The water temperatures are still in the low 80s on Rayburn as well. The water level did bump up a little bit over there after the rainy weather we had, but overall it has continued a steady declining trend. So there's still a really good offshore bite there. They're still moving some water around, but not necessarily a deep offshore bite. You're going to want to look to the flats and the points near the main lake. You're going to want to stay close to the main lake, but you only need to be in about 5 to 15 feet of water for success. As usual, the crankbait and the Carolina rig are still killing it, but I've also heard some good reports of a football jig producing some larger fish, so you might want to try that for a bigger bite. All right, now let's talk about some crappie to finish out. I'm going to lump Rayburn and Toledo Bend together on this one. I do that every now and then because those two lakes just fish so similar as far as the crappie bite goes this time of the year. Basically, right now, the crappie on both of these lakes have taken notice of the cooler temperatures, and they've been biting very well. Those first cool fronts of the year always seem to make for a good spark in the bite, and that's what's happening right now. The best bite is on a jig this week, so if you want to get out those panfish assassin jigs, monkey milk has been the best color because the water's pretty clean right now. They like that good natural color. If you can sit back about 20 to 30 feet away from them, cast that monkey milk jig out there and let it sink down to about 12 feet is where the crappie are usually hanging around the timber and the bridge pilings and stuff like that. You can have a lot of success. Minnows has been successful as well. You just got to put that minnow down there and just dead stick it. And I'm going to leave you this week with a photo of Mr. Kurt there. He's kind of new to the fishing world, but he enjoyed some great crappie fishing with me this week. We had a blast catching some slabs.
Well, it looks like he got off to a good start if he's just new to it. Thanks a lot, Matt. I'm going to take your Rodan Marine hot spots for the middle fresh region from here. Captain Matt says Sam Rayburn's the place to be, or Toledo Bend. They're both pumping out lots of bass and crappie right now. Crankbaits are key for bass, and jigs are dynamite for the crappie. Focus on shad for success and big numbers of fish. You know, that whole bait scenario really is key right now. Find where that bait is, doesn't matter what depth it is, and you're gonna find those fish hanging around them.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
All right, our guide in the lower fresh region is coming up with your next RipRap adventure. But first, Dave Farrell is covering all things RipRap, jetty, and surf for rigs and techniques at the Yak Gear workbench. Dave.
I'm going to concentrate on the surf and the jetties. And
Okay. We'll let the captains do
RipRap
RipRap
for the captains.
Got it. Sounds
Yeah.
good to me. It's just too much to cover.
Exactly.
We'll be
It is.
back.
In 5 minutes, for sure.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Fenwick. Feel everything. Bahio. Blue light blocking, radically clear polarized fishing sunglasses. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. 30 years of fishing for adventure. Berkeley. Your fish, our science. And Skeeter Performance Fishing Boats. Eat, sleep, fish.
Well, we're at the Yak Gear workbench for the rigs and techniques section of the show.
Yes.
You know, surf is one of your specialties, and so
Yeah,
we're going to get a
kinda.
lot of info on that, and some jetty stuff too. So let's.
I like surf fishing.
Well, the main thing is the length of the rods, Dave.
Right, it is, and
Yeah.
you use longer rods and tall surf spikes like these out here in the front, and that's mainly to keep your line up above the waves, you
Yeah.
know, and allows you to make long casts, and they also telegraph a bite a lot better because you have these nice little whippy tips and a strong backbone, so you can make these incredibly long casts. I can cast these here 100 yards. You know, with this
Wow.
I got 20-pound or 15-pound Pro Spec chrome braid, you know, high vis to keep the pelicans out of it. The pelicans can see that better, you know,
Yeah.
the seabirds and whatnot, they can see that orange a little better. And when I make those long casts, I like to use like a 4-ounce weight, and that has nothing to do with the surf conditions to me. You know, if it's really rough, that's obviously going to help. If, you know, I might have to go up to a 5-ounce, but I rarely do that. If I have to use a 5-ounce, it's probably too busted up for me to be fishing in it. But I use the 4-ounce because I can make a really long cast, and that anchors my rig, you know, so that when a fish comes and eats that circle hook on these dropper rigs on here, then he gets hung up. The weight actually, he swims away from the weight and gets hooked.
Because these dig into the sand, and so they're
Correct.
covered like that.
Right, and then they break away. You know, these
Yeah.
will
So-
fold
so
the
they
other
can,
way.
They can fold.
Yeah, they fold back when you pull them out of the sand.
Or if you get in a rock situation, you don't lose your weight.
Correct, and those are you know, I use those no matter what the surf condition is, just mainly for that long casting ability and the way that they provide an anchor for that, you know, a double dropper loop rig with a little circle hook on it.
That's interesting that you say that, Dave, because most people say, oh, well, it's calm, I'm going to use a lightweight.
Right.
It's rough, so I'm going to use a heavier weight. You're just like, it doesn't matter. I want the anchor to hold no matter what the condition.
Right.
And if it's too rough for that anchor to hold, then it's probably too rough to fish.
That way I can use 3, 4, 5 rods, and I don't have to be holding the rod when the fish eats it. These all have circle hooks on them, so the fish comes, the redfish or the little shark or even a tarpon comes up into the little Spanish mackerel, comes up into the surf, eats that, and then he swims against that weight, and that circle hook draws right to the corner, and he's on.
And hooks him perfect.
It hooks him perfect. And you'll see the rod tip just going woo, 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 woo. You know he's on.
Yep.
You know, and all you got to do is go over there and pick it up and reel him in. So, you know, you want to use like a little, an artificial to hold your shrimp on there. I like to use shrimp. Everything eats shrimp. Or clam, you know, you can cut up a clam and use it. I like to use crab knuckles too. I'll cut up a big piece of crab and put a little piece of crab knuckle on each one of those hooks, or maybe put a shrimp on one and a crab on the other and figure out what they're eating.
And you're using these gulp style baits, fish bite style baits to hold that other natural bait in place.
Correct. And plus this dispenses a lot of surf, plus it's really colorful. You know, if you got muddy water in the surf instead of, you know, pristine clean surf, then those bright colors really will attract a fish. If I'm using it in crystal clear, I like to not even use any kind of little weight, little floats or anything.
Just the hook.
Just the hook, you know, or a white. You know, I'll use a white in really clear water. But otherwise, I'm not.
Now, what if a guy wants to, he says, I'm not really into the whole surf fishing thing, but I want to go chase those redfish or those bluefish or something that's just on the outside of the break.
Right, you can get away with using like a 7-foot rod like this one here, the Spinfisher 7 combo. It's got a sealed drag and body, so you can get it really wet. It's got these nice rubberized handles on it, so you know those are really nice as well. You got a good grip on it. What you want to do is
it's tacky.
Yeah. What you want to do either in the on the jetty or in the surf, because there's a lot of fish in the surf that you can cast plugs and stuff at. What you do is you want to cast perpendicular to the beach. You know, I mean parallel to the beach. Parallel to the beach.
Well, that way you're coming in contact with more fish.
Exactly.
It's not an X.
Correct.
It's a Y, and you get more. More opportunity.
And you know, if you're on the jetties, you know, you want to wear a nice pair of boots because those big boulders of rocks, you know, with all the barnacles and the slime and all that stuff on them, I've seen some pretty nasty wounds that guys get from falling on those things. And that's where a backpack helps you. Frees up one of your hands. You know, if you can put all your tackle in a backpack instead of, you know, carrying a bunch of tackle boxes. You should always keep one hand for your rod and one free hand in case you fall when you're on a jetty.
You don't necessarily have to have like live shrimp, but you can put fresh shrimp in a Ziploc and put the Ziploc in the backpack.
Correct. And you know, sometimes I'll carry a bucket, but usually I don't. You know, usually I don't. And you can use all these jigs. You know, a bucktail jig, a swim jig. You know, something like this that you know catches everything in the surf: redfish, tarpons. Everything will eat those things.
Everything loves a jig. Well, great job. Wish we had some more time, but
I could go on and on.
We could go on forever. Well, where are we going next, Bree? Let's check it out.
All right. Well, there are so many RipRap opportunities in the lower fresh region, so let's get more details on Fayette County, Somerville, Travis, Buchanan, Bastrop, Austin, and Falcon with Matt Reed. Go for it, Matt.
All right, Bree. Let's get this thing rolling. You know, RipRap is a great fish holding structure. The crevices between the rocks give the crawfish and bait fish places to hide. And when the bait fish is there, the bass won't miss that opportunity. One of the places on just about any lake that you want to concentrate on, a lot of the marinas have RipRap around them. They got the boat docks on the inside, RipRap on the outside, just tons of habitat, and the fish love those rocks. You especially want to check the rocks around the marinas that host, you know, the Tuesday night jackpotters or any of the major tournaments. Those fish that are released will definitely hang there on that RipRap and are willing to bite. The RipRap along most lakes' dams is extremely productive. The deep water access is a huge benefit. Fish can move up and down those rocks and to whatever level the food is, and they have plenty of cover. My favorite way to attack the rocks is with a crankbait. It allows you to target all different depths. The Berkeley Fritz Side 5 is a great bait for 5 foot or less, and that Berkeley Dime has, several options to cover all the rest of the water column. The bass won't react to a crankbait. Shaky heads and small jigs should do the trick. Let's get on into the largemouth. Fayette County has been real good. The fish are beginning to move shallow with it cooling down a little bit. You want the fish along the reeds and the outer edge of the hydrilla with wacky stick baits, swim jigs, and rattle traps. Once the sun gets up, move out in that 12 to 15 foot of water on the main lake points with a light Carolina rig. Flukes and stick baits are the best pieces of plastic to put on it. Somerville's been fair. Lipless and square bill crankbaits in that 2 to 6 foot of water have been doing the trick. You want to stay close to deep water, though. Those bass are feeding up along with the hybrids and whites. They're kind of all mixed in right now. Look for the nervous shad in the water in the areas there, and that is what you want to target when you see the nervous water. Lake Travis is fishing well. The fish are also moving up since the water temp has come down some. Big groups of shad are coming into the shallows, and the bass are there to feed on them. Crankbaits are working great around that. If you want to fish the bottom, a Texas rig worm is always a good choice. Lake Buchanan is also heating up as the lake is cooling down a little bit. Those fish love the cooler water temperatures. You can catch a bunch of them right now piled up on the rocks. You want to throw swim baits, crankbaits, or straight tail worms on those rock piles. Boy, in the fall, there can be a whole bunch of them schooled up, so that can lead to a lot of action. If you want some fun topwater explosions, throw a frog or a jaywalker along the retaining walls to catch some of the big fish that are up shallow. Like bass trout, still fishing pretty good. You want to work the outside grass lines to catch the best quality. If you just need a bite, go to the hot water discharge and throw a shaky head trick worm, finesse worm on a shaky head, and they'll eat that all day. Lake Austin's been producing pretty well. You want to work the docks. You skip lightweight Texas rig worms up under the docks and also a jig during the day. At night, you want to throw larger creature baits on those same docks in the mid-lake area to catch the big ones. If you do notice a brush pile, be sure and work it over really well. My Falcon Lake bass, we're a little stubborn this week. The north wind kind of set things back a bit, but things are rapidly returning to normal. As usual, the rocks and brush piles are the ticket. There's lots of numbers up shallow, but the big girls are out in the deeper water, which is definitely what I prefer to target. Your big plastics and football jigs have been my top producers. Got a couple of pictures there from Falcon this week. I got Nacho and Darryl with just a couple of nice Falcon Lake chunks.
Doesn't look stubborn to me.
I tell you what.
Take one of those.
Heck yeah, all day long. It doesn't really matter what lake you want to go to. It sounds like there's a good bite going on with the square bills, and also, anytime you can get around that riprap, like he was mentioning earlier, and it was shown in the video that we showed to begin with, a 45-degree angle, because you just stay in the strike zone so much longer. And you see a lot of people, when they first start fishing, they make that mistake and they go, oh, I'm gonna pull up and I'm gonna cast perpendicular to it. And your strike window is so shallow when you do that. So if you lay it at that 45, it stays in there longer. So that's one of the great tips that we like getting from the guys and also showing on the video. You know what, Matt? Absolutely fantastic report this week. Here's the hot spots for the Lower Fresh region. Matt says, Fayetteville County has been good with more fish moving shallow. Fish along the reeds and the outer edge of the hydrilla with wacky rig stick baits and swim jigs. And once the sun gets up high, move out there to that 12 to 15 feet of water on the main lake points with a light Carolina rigged fluke style bait or a drop shot stick bait.
Parallel, as Dave says, parallel.
Parallel 45. That's all. You get out there at 90 degrees from it, you're out of. You're limiting your bites.
No bueno. All right, the front runner boats, Upper Coast and Upper Fresh regions have a lot going on with some important updates for the weekend, so make sure you stay with us. And remember to keep up with everything fishing in Texas. Scan that QR code on your screen to check out our social media pages, YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy, and on our website you can purchase products you see right here on the show. We'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. Abyss Battery. Power your pursuit. Ducks Unlimited. Leader in wetlands conservation. Rodan. Set it, forget it, catch more fish. Berkeley Pro Spec Chrome. And Penn. Let the battle begin.
Today's PowerPole tip is certainly about the premium brand products that PowerPole has to offer. Now, over the last 25 years, they have certainly created some really cool products. The Charge comes to mind for me, and certainly it saves me a lot of time each day when I can just simply get home, plug in, and not have to worry about watching and maintaining my batteries between trips. The other thing that I think about is how easy it's made my job and my boating experience on a day-to-day basis when I'm actually using the shallow water anchors that they have to offer as well. Remember this, when you're talking about buying a PowerPole product, you're supporting a Florida-based company right here in Tampa. And the thing that I also appreciate about them is how well their customer service and what they have to offer us. It certainly is the best in the industry, so keep that in mind. So on behalf of PowerPole, we want to thank you for supporting PowerPole over the last 25 years. And we also are looking forward to working with you with new products over the next 25 years. And if you have any questions, you can go to PowerPole.com, and that's today's PowerPole tip of the week.
There really is nothing that compares to PowerPole. Love my PowerPoles.
And if something does go wrong, their
Yep.
customer service is absolutely second to none.
Yep.
Incredible people that work at PowerPole. So if you haven't tried one, you need to.
Exactly. All right, well, we're getting jetty with it in the Front Runner Boats Upper Coast region. So let's see what Captain Carl Weston has us reeling in this weekend. Hi, Carl.
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing good.
This is really good timing, guys, because fishing has just been crazy on the beaches and jetties. The beachfront here in the Front Runner Upper Coast is really solid. There's a ton of beaches you can fish here, and it's all easy access. The state of Texas has really made it to where you're within walking distance of many of your favorite spots. And like I said, the fish are biting right now. The jetties are a spot to fish here year-round. We have awesome built jetties from Freeport to Galveston, all the way back east to Sabine. The Texas City Dike is the longest in Texas, and you can do so much fishing, kayaking. They've got bait shops, food, ice, picnic areas. You know, it's a fee to access the dike, but it's the money well spent. And I hope you get out and try it if you haven't already. We have a picture today of Danny hitting his favorite spot on the Texas City Dike.
Wow.
That'll work.
Oh, yeah. Now, guys, the black drum bite has stayed steady. We've been talking the last few weeks. These warm water conditions and the rain last week has pushed that bait. The little blue crabs back in the grass, and it's just prime time fishing for those big black drum. Watch for these fish pushing top water back in the flat. You're going to rig to keep your bait shallow by I use a slip cork, heavy eagle cloth, treble hook, cut shad, blue crab. That's candy for drum right there. And you'll see them all along the shore, cast out in front of them. When you get ready, you know, if bait's not available, fish bite chunks in the blue crab is the next best thing, and it works very well. And it won't cast off so quickly. So now, don't forget, Starbright has a full line of our boat cleaning supplies as we go through the end of this year. Keep that blood off the deck. And as we've said in the past, if you're not going to eat these big drums, please release them back. And I have a picture today of a couple landing 2 really nice drums with Captain JT.
Ooh, those are some studs there.
They are. I wouldn't want to eat them, but they're fun to catch.
Yeah, I kind of cut right about that 12-pound mark is about where I try and cut them off.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tell us about the offshore.
Let's get out there. We've had some great days in the past week to go deep drop. I mean, it's been like a pond out there. And it's my favorite table fare, the golden tilefish. They're a lot of fun to catch in the deep drop situation. And, I'll start out about 900 feet, and I find new spots all the time. I'll bump around out to about 1,300, find a good spot, catch a few fish. I use a 4 to 5 hook rig with glow skirts, about 8-aught hooks, tipped with cut squid or fish. And once again, that fish bite on the bait will ensure it doesn't fall off on the way down when you're dropping that deep. So if you're fishing with an electric reel, after you're sure you're hooked up, keep your pressure steady, but not too much drag. And you can pull these fish right off if you get crazy and pull them up too fast. They do have a soft mouth. And I got a picture today of a table of fish, and Natasha's got her work cut out for her cleaning them, as you can see.
Oh, you put Tashi to work? What?
So
I'll hear about
let me
that
get the
later.
last one, guys. Ling offshore this week. We saw a lot more ling around the underwater structure while we're amberjack fishing. And like always, keep an eye peeled out. Keep that fish rod ready because they're always going to catch you when you're not ready. Always keep some cut bait on the board, a few live baits in the live well. Keep one rod set up with that single live bait hook, like a 6/0 trocar tied to about 3 foot of fluorocarbon, so they can't see it. They get a little spooky sometimes. I like that Berkeley Vanish myself. Large bucktail works really well. Plastic swim baits work great, white and green. So if you're interested in these baits, these bucktails, tip it with a little something, squid, cut bait, anything to trick these fish into taking the bait. And I've smacked the side of the boat with my hand and going to turn around and come right back to the boat and look at the bait. So they're very curious fish. And I got a picture today, guys, of Captain JT again with his buddy. They put a nice ling in the fish box.
Yes, they did. That was an absolutely fantastic report, Carl. I'm going to take your upscale glass company hotspots for the Upper Coast region from here. Captain Carl says, inshore fish the grass flats for black drum. You want to throw some cut crab on a slip rig, and then offshore. Target those ling over the offshore structures and use a big bucktail on a medium weight pin combo. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've told people, make sure you have a pitch bait ready.
Yeah.
And yet I find myself every once in a while forgetting to do it. And it's
Of course.
ah!
They get you when you, especially.
They're there, and you're like, oh, there they are.
And then you don't bring a gaff, you don't bring a net, and you need the gaff, and you need a net. It's just what happens. All right, now the Upper Fresh region has some good news for us on Possum Kingdom and Ray Hubbard, plus some RipRap intel with Mike McFarland. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Bree. How's everybody doing?
Doing
We're
good.
Good. We're awesome here too, and it's cooled down and everything's fighting. When it comes to the RipRap surf and jetties, you're not going to find much of that in the Upper Fresh region. However, we have a lot of concrete bridges, rock piles, road corners that are covered in rock, and these hard structure areas are excellent in the late summer, early fall transition. They really will hold a cooler water temperature faster, and they have really been cooler all summer, but they'll pile up with shad and crawfish and brim, and this brings the big bass and other predators there. Remember that these areas are going to be much like a deer feeder, so there's not always fish there, like there's not always deer on your feeder, but they come when they want to eat. I like to use a 1/2 ounce jig, the color brim or crawfish colors, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. So come on up to Upper Fresh and fish some of these rock areas, and you're going to hear in my report right now, that's exactly what's happened. So moving to Possum Kingdom, Pete Hernandez says fall transition's underway. Solid crankbaits and spinnerbaits on main lake points and secondary points. And like we just talked, rocky ones are best. Moving to Ray Hubbard with Joe Shipley, bait fish are shallow there. Shad-colored square-bill crankbaits on rocky areas is the best. You can actually go fish some jigs and things around grass edges and reed pockets. You might catch some bigger fish, but most of the fish are moving towards those rocks. Lake Fork. Fork's kind of showing some signs of fall turnover, but it's mild, so we're still seeing great groups of fish chasing shad. Hot water baits and weightless flukes are really the best. Your Berkeley Bullet Pop and the size 70 or the El Chapo are great for those surfacing, boiling fish. They cast well, they're easy to work, and very successful with catching the fish right now. When the fish aren't surfacing, I'm actually using the Bass Assassin Vapor Shad. Sometimes they're still active underwater, you're just not seeing them bust the surface. That Vapor Shad's really, really, really good for me in those down times. And this is really cool. This picture is actually from Jackie Wiggins, but this is a Lake Fork special. This is a big bass that we call Lake Fork special because they're average. This is just an average bass for us. But look at the smile on this lady's face.
I was going to say, she is smiling wide, boy.
I would be
tell you.
too. Look at
That's
that
a
fish.
nice
Look,
fish.
and that really is a big bass. Most places, that's a really big bass. On Fork, that's just what we catch a lot of. So come on to Fork. Moving on to crappie. Lake Fork again. The crappie is really in the same patterns, 18 to 28 feet of primary, secondary creek channels. They're holding in the trees. Brush piles holding some fish, but the fish kind of are starting to move towards, fall, winter type patterns. They're not in big groups yet, but they're really just starting to turn on to that fall bite. Minnows are your best. what's really good for crappie is Lake Bodark. Lake Bodark, a brand new lake north of Dallas. The crappie fishing is unbelievable. 8 to 25 feet, tons of fish in 12 inches or so, which are keepers. I mean, it's just easy fishing, what Jackie says. So check out Bodark for crappie. And here's Jackie with a busy table, a lot of cleaning there, but some good eats.
Heck yeah.
I love their matching outfits too. So cute. Oh, nice. Fish frying tonight.
Tuwalkany. We're going to move on to stripers. Matt Fartwright said Tuwalkany's got really tough lately. He's scanning hundreds of fish, but they're not active. The best time really fishing is right at dusk, a little bit of some surface activity. This one's cool. Moving to catfish, you want to have a freezer full of fish. Lake Fork right now is producing 50 to 100 eater-sized fish in just a couple hours with a handful of fishermen. Meaning 3 or 4 guys go out, chum a spot 14 to 28 feet around a creek swing. These fish are piled up well, and it's just easy pickings. Prepared catfish bait's really your probably most financial, wise way to do it. You can use night crawlers and worms and stuff, but I personally like to chum a spot with cattle cubes from the feed store the day before, and then use catfish bait. And this big table right here, someone is going to be cleaning fish forever. Look at the size of this table of catfish that was obtained in just 2 hours.
Holy cow, that's a mess of catfish.
It's a good problem to have.
It's a lot of fish. So that's what's going on up here. We're doing really well. Fall's cooling off, and the fishing's firing up.
Mike, real quick, day or night, does it matter on the catfish bite? Because a lot of times, you know, catfish will actually bite better at night, but are you seeing any preference?
These ones are just all day long, especially if you pre-bait the hole with those cattle cubes or sour grain. And you only need about 3-4 pounds of chum in your spot. Just make a waypoint or tie it to a tree, put some chum, and that's how good it is.
Thanks for that great report, Mike. I'm going to take your Ducks Unlimited hotspots for the upper fresh region from here. Captain Mike was saying Lake Fork big bass are shallow, and they're schooling and gorging themselves on bait fish right now. Topwater baits like the Berkeley Bullet Pop and the El Chapo are going to get your arm hurt. No arm day at the gym. Early mornings are best, but the bite continues most of the day, Bree.
All right, well, the catfish like it 24/7.
I'm telling you.
There we go.
Just go catfishing.
All right, next we're seeing what our Fish Bites Middle Coast region is getting us prepared for the weekend ahead. But first, Dave is definitely preparing us to spend a pretty penny on Taco Marine new products at the Yak Gear workbench. That's pretty.
Isn't that neat?
Oh yeah, I'm attracted to shiny things. I'll buy that. We'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Abu Garcia, Fish to Win, Fenwick, Feel Everything, Berkeley Pro Spec Chrome, Island Lures, Tournament Tackle, Sea Sucker, easy on, easy off, incredibly strong. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a Miro Lure. Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA. And Startron. Start, run, and store with Startron.
Well, we're at the Taco Marine new product segment, Dave.
Yes, sir.
At the Yak Gear workbench. And I'm telling you, we got some really cool stuff. Not a lot of stuff, but really cool stuff.
We got 4 things. That's usually what we have. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with the Minnow Maker there. You know, that's a big jug of stuff that keeps your minnows alive and well. Any kind of bait probably it would work on. It comes in 1 ounce, 16 ounce, and that 1 gallon. Designed to keep minnows healthy. You know, it's ideal for holding tanks, minnow transport, bait wells, obviously, and a bucket. If you have a little minnow bucket, you can put a little bit in there. Has detoxifying nitrates in there, anti-foaming stuff, removes ammonia, chloramine, chlorine, adds essential electrolytes in there and helps replace the slime coat of the baits. Stops their bleeding, relieves stress. I should take this home and make myself a big bathtub full of it and lay in it.
Take a shot at night
before
you go to bed.
Minnow, you know. If Rick was here, he'd probably take a shot of it. He likes to do that. It's made in the USA. It balances pH. It's non-toxic to humans. So
that's what's really cool.
Rick's a human.
Yeah,
he can drink it. Pets, wildlife, aquatic life. You know, it's good stuff. Evidently,
and 1 gallon treats.
1 gallon. 8 drops treats a bucket full of minnows. So
this will treat 90 or 100 gallons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. 1 ounce treats 90 gallons.
Oh wow!
So that treat, if you
Super
buy that, you're in for your Minnow Maker for life.
You can soak in it every night and have your minnows healthy.
Exactly. Unless you're selling minnows, unless you have a giant trough full of minnows that you're selling, that gallon will last you forever. You go to TH Marine Supplies to get the Minnow Maker.
Oh, our friends at TH Marine Makers.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
gotcha. Well, what's next?
Next, we're going to talk about that Savage Pulse Tail Mullet. We're talking about the surf and the jetties and whatnot. That's a great bait to throw. It's got that line through version there. I rigged it up with a little 40-pound mono. You can either put that hook in the belly, or they even have a spot up here. I didn't rig it that way, but they also have a spot up here on the back where you can put that big treble hook on the back. It's a nice big, really sturdy treble hook. It's got a lot of vibration and displacement. That little tail in the back, is split, so it just moves a ton of water. And bait fish predatory fish, they're attuned to that, that pulsing tail and the water displacement. And plus it has a built-in scent and a built-in rattle. So it's ringing all the dinner bells for a big predatory fish.
And when you have a fish like a snook or a tarpon or a bass that jump and spit, the hook gets away from the bait, so they can't use this as leverage.
Exactly. That's what that's for. They come in 6 or 8 inch versions, 1 3/4 ounce, 3 7/8 ounce, which I guess is that big giant one there, and 2 2/3 ounce. So like you said, it'll catch redfish, tarpon, speckled trout. Just about anything that'll eat a mullet will eat that Savage Pulse Tail Mullet. And you get that at savagegear.com.
Nice.
Next, we have a cool little thing. It's called the Shrimp Walker. And this allows you to use a live shrimp as a bait without piercing the shrimp. What it does is it acts like a little harness on top of the shrimp. You slip that little white ring, that little white piece, over the horn on his head, and you pull it back until that red part, back the other way. Yeah, you pull it back.
So you slide it forward.
Yeah, put the horn.
Shrimp.
Actually, this would be on his back. The hook would be over.
Like so.
Yeah, exactly. And turn it back. There you go. And the horn goes in there, and you can pull it all the way back, and that red part will get behind the shell of his head. Okay. At the very back of the head.
So you're actually rigging it with an exposed point hook.
Exactly. So that hook will be up on top of the shrimp. The shrimp will swim like he's alive because nothing's hurting him. He's perfect. And boom, it's a really good way. Tough, long-lasting, adjustable. You can also use it for crayfish, for bass as well.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It'll work on any of those crustaceans. And you go to palmbeachtackle.com to pick you up some of those. Those are pretty cool little doodads. Last but not least, we have some island lures. These are the island lures with the new octopus skirts, which is really what we're here to talk about. They've had hair skirts forever, island lures. A blue and white island lure has probably caught more blue marlin than any other bait, just about, with a nice ballyhoo in it. You can put ballyhoos in there, or you can just rig those the way they are, and have a hook, have a hook down there all the way at the end of the tail. They're great, 5 to 8 knots. They're 7 inches long. They weigh about an ounce. The sail lure does. Those are a little heavier. I think those weigh about 2 ounces.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this one feels about 2 or 2 1/4.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic.
I don't go fishing offshore without an island lure.
Right.
I'm sorry. I have them on my boat all the time. So go to shopmiralure.com to get your new octopus skirts on your island lures.
Gentlemen,
well, we had some great products, but we're going to let Bree tell us where we're going next.
Between the Minnow Maker and the shrimp saddle, I mean, you're covering it all right there.
The shrimp harness.
Shrimp harness. Just a saddle, too. All right. Well, we all know when it comes to the Fish Bites Middle Coast region, it checks all of our boxes for this week. RipRap, surf, and jetties galore. So let's see what Captain Bink Grimes has to say. Wrap us up for the weekend, Bink.
All right. Hey, light north winds has been a welcome relief for the Texas heat. It means one thing, that Jetty Fishing is on. It's been on fire lately with these weak cold fronts, making the Gulf a tranquil lake. This time of year, the redfish frequent the jetty as they head to the ocean to spawn. Trout action is just as good. One of my favorite things in life to do is toss a big plug in an emerald surf and watching Ocean Speck eat a top water at the Sabine Pass Jetty. Right now, our surf is sandy green, and all the anglers you can catch trout, redfish, drum, jacks, and tarpon right now at a jetty anywhere along Texas in September. Cooler temperatures this week gave us that chance, and we've been taking full advantage of it. As have we've been doing the same with teal many mornings and then fishing in the afternoons. Our afternoon bite has actually been better with the moon. Porter Connor catches this week. Lynn Smith said they've been eating topwaters. Good streams have come from the Cedars, City Slickers, on she dogs and bass assassins. That nearby jetty has been good for trout on live shrimp. Some away the backside of the jetty with a calm wind. Scattered trout has come from the Surfside Freeport jetty on mirror lures and live shrimp. And the high tides in Rockport have put trout on the shorelines. Low pressure in the Gulf caused a good bite on topwaters and corkies. Spots like Super Flats and Allen's Bight have held trout over sand and grass. Real important to watch your moon. We're on a full moon right now. Fish the majors and fish the minors. West Matagorda Bay has been hot for trout as well. Good numbers have come around Palacios with this north wind, Tres Palacios Bay and on the backside of Oyster Lake. East Matagorda Bay has been good in 5 to 6 foot of water. Top waters have worked for the first 2 hours of light on mid-bay reefs. Trout up to 8 pounds. Spots like Boiler Bayou, Don's Pipeline, and Alice are doing really well. And there's a lot of Gulf trout coming into East Matagorda Bay right now. There's a photo. That's a jetty trout caught on a green tide on an autumn day in September. It's just been pretty daggum good the last 6 weeks. Redfish action. Bull reds have been along the beachfront from Surfside to Port O'Connor. All the jetties right now are players. Surfside, Freeport, Matagorda jetties are holding redfish on cracked blue crabs, mullet, and fresh table shrimp. Port O'Connor jetties is full of big reds right now, drifting in front of Bird Island, soaking menhaden, large table shrimp, and mullet on that moving tide. Then waders, they found redfish in West Matagorda Bay while wading the south shoreline with live shrimp and bass assassins. Casting to those points, every point there has a piece of shell. All those redfish are on shell right now. As always, this time of year encourages slot redfish to school in bunches of 2 dozen or more on the grassy shoreline. Spots like Shell Island, Twin Island, Cutoff Flat, Zipper and Bayou, and Matagorda are great spots. Mud Island, Crab Lake are players as well. Never discount our jetties. What we're talking about, Port Aransas has been good for reds. High tides have made the flats nearby, Pelican Island and East Flats have been really, really good for reds there. Offshore action. September's tarpon time. They continue to be found around the beachfront, especially in Port O'Connor. Anglers drifting menhaden, large finger mullet, live shrimp, deep diving baits have found fish, 5 to 10 a day. Large schools have been rolling around the Port O'Connor jetty in about 60 to 70 foot of water. Most people are spotting those rolling fish and trolling ahead of them and offering the bait right in front of them. Guys throwing jigs like coon pops have done really well. Guide Michael Quebec out of Matagorda went 3 for 5 the other day. And with all these calm conditions we're having, expect lots more tarpon to show through September and October in Texas. That's just the way things go around here. It's been hard to beat. And it's been hard to beat our Fish Bites Middle Coast region. Fishing has just been really, really solid. Keep doing what's best for our bays. Please release more than you take, and please treat other boaters like you'd want to be treated yourself.
Bink, real quick, you said that the jetties were on fire the last couple of weeks. How many more weeks do you think that you guys are going to get of this good, solid action like this? Is it going to take a hard cold front or something like that to blow it up, or do you think it's just going to maintain for a while?
It'll maintain. Typically September and October, we have light winds and very good incoming tides, and it'll be mostly redfish and tarpon. We don't catch as many trout in September and October at the jetty for some reason, but the redfish are just everywhere.
Well, ain't nothing wrong with that. Well, thanks, Bink. We're going to take your mirror lure hot spots from here for the Middle Coast region. Bink says trout are good at Allen's Bight and mirror lure softines and bass assassin soft plastics. Redfish are good at Oyster Lake and Crab Lake on live shrimp. And tarpon are showing up on the beachfront, and it looks like the tarpon are going to be good for the next couple of weeks.
Fantastic.
That's my favorite fish to chase in the fall time. I love it.
I bet you they eat a miradine too, man.
I'll bet they will.
I love those miradines.
Yeah, you love that hand too, don't you?
I do. I love this hand.
Yeah, someone needs to hold your hand.
My wife won't hold my hand like this anymore.
It's true. Well, Jim, thank you for joining us this week. We got all that rip-rap and jetty surf out of the way. Dave's going to be surfing.
Surf fishing.
Fishing some
surf days are over.
Tournaments soon. So
I drown.
On the 19th, you've got another one coming up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, good luck. Bring your hand with you.
I will.
You
I'll
might
bring
need
my
it.
hand. I need a hand.
And next week, make sure you join us for our season finale. Rick will be back, and get out there, catch those fish. We'll see you next week.